super cool. So this is for Lou Adler, but I'm going to share this with everybody as well. So Lou, this is to you, man. I've used your performance-based hiring hub here. I had a client that we onboarded, really vague expectations. Construction company needs like an operations manager, maybe like an integrator type of person. Very, very unclear expectations. So I spent an hour interviewing him. I sent some job analysis questions to him. I took all that. I popped it right into the work analyzer here. And so that's all this content. I just took the transcript from the meeting. And again, I gave him a scripted job analysis kind of process there. And then it created a really, really nice performance-based job description. And ultimately I share that with the client, and we'll probably end up going back and forth a little bit, but I mean, from where I sit and from listening, I mean, it just nailed it. And it really comes out with this very nice formatting and everything. So I like that as well. Maybe I could share, there's probably, just because it's so awesome. Oh, that's a semi-final sourcing. There we go. Oh, that's not it either. Okay. Well, let's see. It came back with a really great performance-based job description. That's the long and short of it. So really, really nice. And then at the end of the day, I'm reading chapters 12 through 14 of performance-based hiring, and talking a lot about how do you leverage people who are like first degree connections with your ideal candidate to get them to introduce you or refer you into that candidate. So I love this concept here. So I had it create this prompt to help me figure out who the semifinalists would be. And honestly, I tried to use this in Google, and ultimately it came up with a number of things in here, and I went through this over and over again. And I used a quick prompt here, and I used this, and then I went to AI, ChatGPT, and I threw the performance-based job description in, and I did a lot of kind of like mucking around. That's something that we're going to streamline. We're going to automate all of this activity from the performance-based job description. We're going to get that really nailed down. And I tried to use it in Google, and honestly, it just failed. Like, it gave me the prompt, it just didn't work. So I was thinking to myself, because this is a conversation that we had earlier today, and I was saying, we really want to be able to automate shortlisting these semifinalists, and then we have a new problem. We got to figure out like who can validate whether they're good and introduce us to these people, so that we can have a really high impact introduction. So I thought about Perplexity, because I think Perplexity might be one of the best modern AI based search engines. I went and got a Perplexity Pro, like the Pro Max plan, so like the best plan I could buy, about $325. And I ultimately took the prompt that I created with ChatGPT, and I could probably just done this in Perplexity now. I didn't have this versus the process I went through. And I plugged in the performance-based job description, and boom. Okay, it's coming through here. And I put it all in, and it gave me essentially the Boolean, I think the X-ray search string, right? And just all the guidelines and everything you need, right? And I just threw it in there. I was like, do this, right? And you can see it going through its process here. It's using computer control and just all the other AI tools. And I also used Opus 4.6 alongside with this. And, well, you can see it. It came up with a sourcing report here. It's kind of cool. Here's the top tier candidates, and there's like their LinkedIn profiles. And so the big problem with sourcing here, right, using AI tools, you can't just go and like scrape a massive amount of data off of LinkedIn. LinkedIn will lock you out that way. It's working on opening that. So that's cool. And then I was like, well, that's neat, but I really need the people's contact information. So it went off and did that. And honestly, it did an okay job. So it came up with some contact information and it put it all into a spreadsheet for me. And that spreadsheet looked, I think, something like this. Here it is. So that's pretty cool, but it seems really incomplete, and it's a lot of like corporate numbers, and the email addresses aren't that good. So what I did is I connected it to my ZoomInfo API, and I asked it to fix that. So before I did that, though, I was like, hey, it's really difficult to share this information with hiring managers if you don't have a resume file, right? So what I did was, it gave me this sourcing report, which is really nice. It's kind of a quick snapshot. And I wasn't quite sure if this was legit. So I went to all these LinkedIn profiles and I looked, and it's spot on. But I was like, I really want to give the hiring manager a full resume along with this little snapshot here. And I need good contact information in order to reach out to them to try to engage these candidates. So I still had these two problems. And I said, hey, would you be able to create me resumes for these people based on the public information? And I said, just do one example to kind of speed this up. And it did the example. Ultimately, it created all of them, and it turned them all into resumes. And then I compared these against the LinkedIn profiles, and it's like basically spot on. And then I said, well, I really need this inside my ATS, right? So I put it in to the customer's account, and I put them all under this sourced candidate status here. This was before I went and actually got the data, so I should have done that first, but this was the process I went through. So again, this is all things we can just automate, because this is just a step-by-step thing. But this is the resume it created. This is not Rob's resume, but it went and created a resume for him. And again, if I went and got the data first, I'd have his LinkedIn profile, this is here, right here, and it would all be added to the ATS in the system. And it would have his email address, and just it would have a cell phone number, his home phone number, his mother's number. I mean, like literally we could go find everything about him. But it created this beautiful resume for Rob, and who is our semifinalist, and he doesn't even know it yet, right? And then performance-based fit assessment here, all ready to go. And then it also gives Lou some credit here. Great. And this is their website. This is like links to all the other people, so he can sort of validate all of this by reverse engineering it. So that is just absolutely amazing. Okay, so now I got to find people who know Rob, who can refer me to Rob, right? So I go back to kind of the best practices here. This thing's still loading here, but we don't need that nonsense. And so this is it creating all the resumes for me. gave it to me, all of them. I was like, download all of them, give me a zip file. And then I took the zip file and I uploaded it into the discover.ai ETS. And then I was like, well, I want to leverage this kind of big red bus thing. I want to be able to leverage, I got to get an introduction. I got to have a super personalized message to go out to these guys. So I said, I want to find people who these people would have worked for in the past, at least have been peers, and then reach out to them to ask them if they would recommend these people for this role. And it already has the context, the performance-based job description. And if not, who the best person they would know who could excel in this position. And it was very nice. So that was a nice strategy. And then it started asking me some questions, and it really structures the questions, which is cool. And I was like, wait a second. Okay, let's just calm down a sec. Let's just do one person. And it said, okay, which one? And I selected a few of these people here. And I told it this, and this. And let's go. And so it just starts thinking through the problem here. And off it goes. And actually found one of our candidates is also related to this candidate. And off we go. So it figures it out, goes through the process, figures out who the people are. Let me find their email addresses, blah, blah, blah. Good. The pattern. So it's like reverse engineering their email addresses, which is fine. It's cool, whatever. But we all know that that's pretty unreliable at the end of the day. Creates me a little spreadsheet. Awesome. Now it's drafting me the emails. Cool. Personalized emails. And so it did all the work, but I was like, no, I really want it to do all the work, right? So we need this to just go from start to finish. So from the performance-based job description to sourcing the semifinalists, to finding people who can introduce us, to creating me the messages that I could send to the people who can introduce me to this person, and to ultimately introduce me to the person, reaching out to the individual. So I was like, I need better data here. So I went and got my API from ZoomInfo, and it did that. I had to go through a few little iterations here to figure out how to do that correctly, but got that done in a couple tries. And it went and found me their information. And there's all their info. So that's pretty cool. Then here's this little spreadsheet with all their info. I got their direct phone numbers, their mobiles, like everything I need. Let's see. Maybe I can open it up. Yeah. So it's all there. And then it wrote me the emails. And I was like, well, again, I want you to finish the job. And so I connected it to my Gmail. Just let me send those. And it sent all the emails. So let's see here. Let me find. There's my email box. And I go to my sent box. And there it is. These are the people. And I think that's a pretty phenomenally well crafted email. Look at that. Here's the three people. Now, I sent this pretty late, 6:38, so it's about 7:40 on a Friday night. I haven't got a response yet, but I would expect to get a response pretty soon here. And so then I have all their data in here. These are all my source candidates. And then AI over here is evaluating them and telling me how strong of a fit they are, so I can continue to iterate on this process. But if I got to hand this over to the client and to the recruiters, I mean, they have everything they need to know. Like, this is somebody, yes, I should spend time going after, or no, I shouldn't. But because I was able to do that with Perplexity, what I've been able to prove here is we could literally automate all of these steps, from create the performance-based job description, source the talent, find the people who can introduce us to us, do the outreach to those people, get the introduction. I haven't even taken it this far yet, but once I get the information from those people, I could detect that and then turn that around into a really personalized outreach to our ideal candidate, which should increase our connection rates with those ideal candidates by, 50x, right? Or 50, 75% of those candidates will ultimately get on the phone with me as a recruiter. And then, of course, if they're not ultimately a fit, then I could leverage them for further referrals here. So and when I do the outreach too, I can plug in my scheduling link. So the email would go out to, say, Paul here after, and say, hey, your previous coworkers, your supervisors, people you worked with, they said you were amazing. They said I should talk to you because I have this interesting opportunity that could be a significant career move for you. Do you have 5 minutes to chat with me? And here's a link to schedule a quick call. And he could just pop up on my calendar, and I could have a discovery call with him to figure out if he's a fit, and or leverage him to get more referrals to other people who could be an awesome fit. This is, I think, something that's very doable. I think we could do it pretty quickly, and I think it solves the sourcing problem, which is one of the biggest challenges in recruiting. Hope you all enjoy.